So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Enzo Espinosa.
And I'm Sophia D, and welcome to Code Sports.
Code Sports is brought to you by Matchup, the very first sports and socio-academic student organization based in UP Diliman. The organization's aim is to change the usual perspective on sports, showing that there is more to it than just the games, players, and coaching staff.
Beyond what we normally see, there are numerous other fields and disciplines that work together to put up the sports that we know and love. Matchup envisions a future where the world of sports open its doors to all, even those not in the athletic sphere, and shows that ultimately sports includes everyone.
And again, Code Sports is brought to you by Matchup.
And is also in cooperation with UP Ruvian and Tennis UP.
And our media partner, Kots Vic TV. So, Pia, we're essentially back, no? It's been so long. So today naman, medyo different yung setting natin because now we're here in Matchup and today is our very first episode for Code Sports. Sobrang exciting na mga magaganap and mga matututunan natin for sure.
Tama ka dyan, Enzo. There's a lot of people who really want to get into sports. Pero minsan napapaisip ka rin parang, am I athletic enough? Am I good enough? Or do you have enough knowledge in sports? Diba?
Totoo yan. And the field of sports is really daunting nga naman. Pero we're here today to show everyone na you don't have to always be an athlete currently or formerly to get into sports. There's so much other fields that we can match up with sports.
Perfect ka dyan. And with that, Enzo, let's introduce our first guest today.
Okay, so our first guest is a graduate from the Ateneo de Manila University, majored in AB Communication, minor in Development Management. She is also a sports TV host and courtside reporter since 2019 and was the courtside reporter of the recently concluded Premier Volleyball League, the very first women's professional volleyball league in the country. So everyone, let's give it up for our first guest, Miss Ayi Tinsay.
Hey guys! I'm so happy to be here.
Welcome.
Hi!
Okay. Thank you for joining us today, Ayi.
No problem. It's my pleasure, Enzo and Sophia.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Sophie?
Next, we also have. She graduated and played football for the Ateneo de Manila University. She is a former member of the women's football national team and played in the Olympic qualifiers in 2018 and was also a former UAAP courtside reporter. Now she is a sports TV host or so she did by Smart Sports and Tiebreaker Times. Also, currently playing for the Kaya FC women's football team and is a movement coach for the Movement Studio. Please welcome Miss Marty Bautista.
Hello, hi.
Yeah. Welcome, Marty. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Ayan. Sophie, meron pa tayong isa. Siyempre, no, if papansinin ng mga audience natin, our guests are two people from the other side of Katipunan. Pero siyempre, hindi pa patalo yung Fighting Maroons, diba? We have to represent today. So, our third and last guest for today is a graduate of the University of the Philippines, Diliman, syempre, a former member of the UP men's basketball team and also played in the PBA and is now a content creator on YouTube. So everyone, let's give it up for our very own Mikey Reyes.
Sabi ko nga bakit ako outnumbered dito
Kasama mo naman kami.
May taga-UP dito. May taga-UP.
Sige. Yeah, thank you for joining us today, Mikey, Ayi, and Marty. It's an honor.
Yes, thank you so much for being in our pilot episode for Code Sports. So, with that, I guess, P, let's jump into the discussion for today. So for today, we want to learn a lot more about sports media, and especially now in the pandemic. So for you three, let's start off with a little kamustahan lang on your background with sports media. So for Mikey, Ai, and Marty, how did you get into sports media, commentating, being an analyst or courtside reporter? Like what was it that brought you into the field?
Audition. Pare-pareho kami.
Tama.
Tama. Yun naman mali. Kasi,
Oo.
go, Ai, ikaw muna.
Yung sa kanya hindi audition, hila yung tawag sa amin eh. Kasi sa SNA kasi, meron silang mga current courtside reporters. Tapos tinanong ng mga boss nila, meron ba kayong mga lower batch na nakita niyo may potential, ganun, maging commentator din, maging sports anchor. And then, yung student facilitator namin, shoutout sa pinakamagandang Denise Dinsay. Nakala nila kapatid ko kasi Tinsay ako, pero with a D siya. Yun. So, courtside reporter siya ng UP before then. And then she called me and Amanda Howe, my best friend. Pareho kaming AB Communication. And then best friends kami. Teammates kami sa Sayawata sa high school before. Tapos sabi namin, pangarap namin maging radio jock. Yung mga ano yun? Junior jock, sabi ko. Pero wala kaming kahit anong background or anything. Like, back in school, I never did hosting. I never did yung parang pupunta sa stage and then you're gonna host an event. Like, I was always the quiet type. And then, I danced. So, nagtitrain lang ako doon. So, nung sa college, they called me. Sabi nila, try out daw sa SNA. Parang they're calling you, ganon, for courtside. Sabi ko, why not, diba? So, I went there. And then, pagdating namin doon, nung friend ko, they showed contracts na isa-sign. I was like, okay. So, parang ganun, like, medyo odd siya, pero parang hila din na, kumbaga, they risked just getting us, not even knowing us, and dahil wala kaming background on sports, we weren't athletes, like what you guys highlighted nga, compared to Marty and Mikey. Wala akong sport, wala akong hand-eye coordination. So sabi ko like, okay, tatry ko lang to. And they risked it. And parang they said na, you know what, there's something in you guys, you're a group of people, there's something in you guys na we believe na kaya nyo, as long as you put your dedication into it. And then yun, fast forward dun sa first PVL episode namin, it was like the 4th match. Sabi lang nung director doon, sabi ko, saan po ako makakagawa ng report? Sabi niya, 10 minutes before, pa nagsistretch yung players, just go up to them and ask them how they are. And then sabi ko, paano ko po malalaman kung sino po yung interviewin? Sabi niya, kung sino nang feel mo? Kasi parang, nung makita na talagang bugso siya ng damdamin, na kung sino yung kutob mong maglalaro doon. As in, parang kang tarot reader. Dahil hindi naman ako sports analyst. Parang kung sino yung feeling kong malakas yung laro today. Yun, so interviewin ko siya 10 minutes before, and then I have 15 minutes to write my report. And then sabi lang doon, for the first time, I was there sa tabi ng bleachers. Sabi ng director, FD ko, sige 3, 2, 1, pag gumunan ako, magsalita ka. Sabi ko po, basta tumingin ka sa camera. Sabi ko, hindi ko po kayo marinig. Sigaw pa na sigaw. Alam ko, cream line yun eh. Tapos sigaw sila na sigaw, wala akong marinig. Sabi ko, sige, kakayanin ko na lang. Pero the minute na I held my mic and then I reported, it came out naturally kasi parang naisip ko, okay, parang ka lang talaga nagkukwento. And some people in Twitter said na grabe, parang saya naman ng trabaho ni Ai. Parang binabayaran siya kasi chumichika lang siya sa TV. When in fact, like, it's not even a bad thing. Kasi sabi ko, oo nga, sarap na ng trabaho ko. Kasi talagang kinukwento ko lang kung ano yung nangyayari backstage. 'Di ba? Sa mga tao sa TV. So, yun yung background ko compared to Mikey and Mart.
Nagsisi naman. Hindi naman sila nagsisi.
Hindi naman.
Hindi naman. Okay, hindi naman sila nagsisi.
Halatang
Go
hindi
ahead,
naman.
Marty. Hindi naman. Galing. Go ahead, Marty.
So tama nga sabi ni Mikey kanina, compared to Ai's experience, we had to audition for it. So similar to Ai, wala akong experience with anything. Even if I was taking communications, I had no experience prior to reporting live. I was hosting before, but that's a totally different scene. And I was just focused on football because we had the UAAP season then. And I was thinking, why not? I came into the auditions. It was a 3-part audition. Similar to Ai, it was actually Denise Dinsay who was teaching me and giving me tips. And she was the former courtside reporter for Ateneo before my batch came in. So that's how it jump-started. After that, I realized the power that media held, especially in promoting sports. Because, you would probably know this, volleyball fans are the craziest. They love the sport so much. They love the team
Yes.
so much. They're so connected with the players, and the players are connected with them. I wanted to try to channel that energy and bring it into other sports naman. So, especially women's sports. I'm a football player, so that was what I was focusing on. But I realized that it goes beyond just basketball, volleyball, football. There are so many beautiful sports there. Na it could inspire anybody who's growing up and let them know that there's an opportunity here in sports. It's not just about winning games. And like you said, it's more than about the players or the athletes or the coaches. There's more opportunities that sports can give. So, yeah.
For you naman, Mikey, how was it for you?
So, ano ba? Ano ba nangyari sa akin? I was injured at the time. I tore my ACL. So I was more or less focused on that. I focused on therapy, focused on, recovering from that. I was in nasa ano ako, NBA cafe in SM Aura. Parang may dalawang NBA player na dumating, and then there was a press conference, and then a close friend of mine, si Suzy, si Tin Gamboa, Suzy 899, I'm sure you all know her. So, sabi niya, punta ka sa NBA cafe, sama tayo sa press conference. Sabi ko, sige, sino nandun? Si Jordan Clarkson darating, tsaka si Trey Burke. So, they're both NBA players. Okay, sige, punta tayo doon. Alright, so when I got there, I was seated sa tapat actually sa tabi ni na Jordan Clarkson. So, we were talking to them, ganyan. And then there was an ABS-CBN guy. At the time, I didn't know who he was, pero he was in front of us. So the ABS-CBN guy was like, "Ay, Mikey, di ba nagsasalita ka for a league, ganyan-ganyan?" Sabi ko, "Oh, sir, pero isa lang yung tinry ko lang eh." Kasi there's this thing with us basketball players, and I think basketball players can relate to it. Medyo mataas yung ego namin eh, which obvious naman eh. So mataas yung ego namin. So we have this thing na, since player ako, bakit gusto ko maging commentator? Like, why would I want to be a commentator? Parang, feeling namin nun, downgrade. Like, player ka eh, tapos naging commentator ka, di ba? So, I was all like, oh, sir, ganyan, pero tinry ko lang, wala lang yun, ganyan. So, he was like, hindi kasi may audition yung NCAA. Babalik sa ABS-CBN from TV5. So, may audition, ganyan. So, might as well try. So, Tin is the more seasoned speaker. Obviously, radio DJ, host, ganyan. So, sinabi niya, Mikey, pumunta ka doon. Sabi ko, ayoko, Tin, kasi mayapang ako eh. So, I'm like, ayoko naman magsalita. Like, player ako eh, di ba? May ganong effect eh. No? Player ako eh, ganyan. So, she was like, hindi, sige, mag-audition ako, basta pumunta ka din. Sabi ko, sige, game. So, I went. I was actually the worst in my batch. My batch was Mix Bustos and Martin Antonio. I was the worst.
Wow.
And then, so when I did it, they got me because technically daw, when I was a player for the UAAP, during interviews, I was more articulate than the usual basketball player. So sabi ko, actually the funniest thing is, akala nila hindi ako nagtatagalog. Like ABS-CBN Sports thought that I was from the States, I grew up in the States. So matagal na pala daw nila akong gustong kunin. But they were like, hindi marunong magtagalog yan. So hindi yan pwede sa atin. So I was like, hindi, nagtatagalog po ako, ganyan. So dito po ako lumaki. So anyway, from there, you just go with it. It's a tough job, but it's a fun job. Tama si Ai, it's fun. It's a fun job. I think with Ai and Marty, the difference is they're courtside reporters. So medyo behind the scenes yung nila, yung papel nila doon. Like to tell the viewers what's happening behind the scenes yesterday sa practice or sa dugout, ganyan. Kami, it's like the whole game you have to analyze, diba? So it was easy in a way that I've been playing basketball my whole life. But you have to get used to it eh. Sila naman, may background kayo eh. Because Marty was a host. I believe, di ba, like it's in your blood to speak, ganyan. In public speaking. Sa akin, wala eh. So medyo, kagaguhan lang, if I can use that word here. Pero medyo gagu lang ako. So, dinalang sa kapal ng muka, Pia. Dinalang sa kapal ng muka. So, yeah. And now, that's what I do.
Mikey, I have a funny story for you.
Go.
Okay. tama si Mikey, because as an athlete, you know, you want to play first. You know,
Diba?
sino naman hindi gusto mag-national team, right? Yun yung goal if you're an athlete. You want to get to the national team, play international games, make caps. But we had this, I think it was a guesting with CNN Philippines. Mikey was there, Bea Fabregas was there, and we were there backstage, and Mikey was saying, ayaw mo ba mag-commentate? Anong ginagawa mo na yun? Ayaw mo mag-commentate? And I was like, I don't know, I want to play it. I want to
Right?
go to the national
Ego,
team.
no? Ego.
And then he was just like, you know, you should just try it out, because if you have free time, you know,
Yeah.
Tasha Alcaraz, who's a mainstay, she's a commentator for football.
Football.
She was telling me, Mikey was telling me, Tasha does this and she plays too. So, you know, you never know. That same
You could
year,
do
Mikey, I commentated
Natuloy.
SEA Games for TV5. Ang fun niya.
That is so cool. Yeah, you can do it simultaneously.
players,
In
eh.
fairness, yeah, you can do it
Yeah.
simultaneously. So yeah, that's
It's
how
fun.
we got there.
Wow. Actually,
Wow.
we tried to do research, konting research, pero talagang
Hindi naman kami
Okay.
artista. Hindi mo kami ma-research, guys. Hindi naman kami
Hindi
artista.
kami.
Wala
Hindi
kami
nyo naman,
eh.
hindi nyo naman kami
nag-search ng
mag-google. Eh.
yes. Lumabas ng YouTube channels, parang ang dami, wait lang. Ano to? Ang daming content, teka. Pero
grabe, the way you guys got into sports media is so diverse at the same time. Magkakapareho rin kayo ng challenges, but like in a different setting lang.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is the next question, but I think Mikey and Marty already answered this. Like, how did being an athlete help you be like into sports media now? And also for Ai, like, how did not being an athlete like help you, or like did it became a challenge for you when you got into the field?
To be honest, when I first watched the PVL, si CK kasi big fan ng PVL eh. So,
Ako, fan ako ni
kilala-
CK.
Pero
Ako
usually,
rin, fan din ako ni CK.
like, usually sa PVL kasi, when nung first, yung mga, well, pre-pandemic, when I would watch the PVL, usually, di ba, kinukuha lang nila yung mga Mela Tuna, yung mga kilala na Michelle Gumaba. Nung una lumabas si Ai, sabi ko kay CK, babe, sino to? Volleyball player ba dati to? Kasi I, like, totally...
Sabi ni CK, teammate ko yan si Ate Ai.
Nung nag-ate siya, sabi ko, patay ate mo siya. Paano, like, bata naman masyado. Hindi, pero like, yeah. It's, I just want to let you know, sobrang bilib ako because it's different to cover volleyball. Like, the following is crazy.
Insane. It's
It
insane.
really
It's
is.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like, sa amin kasi, I remember, okay, sorry, kwento ko lang but Martin Antonio covers sa amin NCAA. So we have players sa NCAA na Murada. Okay, so he covered one game Ateneo sa PVL. Then he called Gia Murada. And nag-trend siya sa Twitter. So I'm like,
Yeah.
you made one mistake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grabe. So I just want to let you know, sobrang bilib ako sa
You're gonna fall 6 feet deep. Like, isang word, isang term, isang position, or isang nickname na mabigay mo na hindi inano. So, technically, when I started working for volleyball, like, what I realized is I wasn't working for the players, I wasn't working for the sports industry, I was merely working for the fans. It was
Very true.
as in talagang heart-strong para sa fans talaga. Like, one inspiring thing my boss said was that, okay, you're not reporting simply out of, writing stats, analyzing games, and reporting injuries. You're actually delivering the message to the mass. And for me, compared to like what Mikey and Marty experienced, na athletes sila and they have the background, they have the terms, the technicality, and everything. I had nothing. And parang for me, ito sa silver lining, mga katriyon agree, na wala akong alam. And for me, the spectator perspective that I inculcated within me, na pareho ako sa mga ibang tao dyan, sa mga students na maglilinya ng oras-oras, diba, sa labas ng Araneta para makakuha ng ticket. May inaantabayan ng laro, may sinostock ng mga player, mga chika na gusto marinig. Knowing that I experienced that firsthand, na I was a student, I was a spectator, I knew what they wanted to find out. I knew what they wanted to watch and like hear. And nung nasa Ilocos ako, parang I had what? Like I had 30 seconds, 15 to 30 seconds to talk about the reports about the teams. I had 10 teams that I individually covered. And parang naisip, sabi ng mga producer ko, like, you know what? Even kahit gaano pa namin habaan yung camera time mo, you won't feel as connected to the players because they're not there. They're not in Philoil anymore. They're not screaming their idols' names. And hindi na nakikita live dahil we're 1,000 kilometers apart. We really feel the distance. And you're the only one there. You're the only representative there. So what can you do? You have to think out of the box. Tapos parang naisip ko, oo nga no, like kahit mag-report pa ako ng matagal doon, i-Q&A ko sila, parang ang layo-layo namin. Parang lang kaming nasa Tokyo. So parang sabi ko, okay, I'm gonna make a platform on social media. I'm gonna connect to the fans. I'm gonna tell them what their idols are eating, what time they wake up, what are their morning routines. And for me din, kumbaga parang naging counselor na din ako ng hundreds of players na nandun. Kasi syempre, ako lang yung tatawagin ko sila ng, so I had to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning. Kasi syempre, yung mga activations nila, mga 8, 7. So you'd have to know which player yung available for a call. Sino yung mga magme-meditate. Sino yung mga ritual nila na hindi makikipag-usap before the game. So you have to respect each and every boundary. You have to get to know each and every one of them. And for a certain fan na idol tong certain player na to, you have to parang kumbaga strengthen their connection and you're the medium. And it was so challenging, but at the same time, like at the end of the day, as in pagod na pagod ako kasi 3 games a day. So kunyari, punta ako dun sa court ng 9 a.m. tapos namin mga 11 p.m. Tapos malamig na yung dinner ko sa hotel room and I was alone. I was alone in my room and alone in my wing. Parang I would just like talagang plakda ako sa kama and pagod na pagod ako. Pero at the end of the day, your heart's so fulfilled kasi napangiti mo, not just the players who wanted their images not to be black and white. They're colored kasi nasabi mo yung kwento nila. But also for the fans na nalaman nila na okay yung mga ate nila, okay yung mga idol nila, they know that they're doing well. And with that, na nakukuha mo yung support ng fans, you're bringing them into the game and the game becomes more colorful than ever.
Wow. Like, I will admit, nung you said, like, yung mga fans sa Pumapia sa Araneta, like, I saw me in high school. Oh, wait lang. Ako ata to. Now that you mentioned nga, you are very instrumental with the whole like pagbabalik ng volleyball. Because like, if you all think of it, it's been 2 years since we last saw like the Santiago sisters, Eliza Valdez and Lia Morado. I said Morado, not Morada. Just in case lang.
Cancel ka, cancel ka.
First episode naman. But yeah, like now that you mentioned, grabe, like for because like in the UAAP or prior to pandemic, we think like court reporters are just sometimes faces who like bring in the stories. But now that you're telling us like what you really had to go through, especially in the PVL during the pandemic, wow, it's really different talaga, no? Na the pandemic really changed our setup for sports. Yeah, right, P?
Oh, yeah, and with that, guys, so what are the challenges and changes in sports media today that you guys can talk to us about?
You know what the challenge is? I'll be the first one. Sorry, but the challenge is Filipinos are suckers, and Filipinos are fools, and they love gossip, they love issues. They love drama. They love conflict, which I don't understand. Like, okay, we're all victims of this, di ba? Kumbaga, kung may conflict, di ba? Like, sige, go, let's see what's up. Ano nangyari, ganyan. But at the end of the day, this is why I went into, or I dove deeper into content creation compared to before, na parang trabaho ko lang siya dati. Like, kung ano yung sabihin ng ABS sa akin nung time na yun, gagawin mo lang. Like, I'm just someone who does my job. Pero ngayon, that's why I dug deeper, is because I felt like people are parang focusing on the outside the game na more than the game itself. And for me, I'm sure also Marty, because we were players before, we were athletes, parang, why can't we focus on those things? Why can't we focus on
Yeah.
like the positive things that sports can do, ganyan, ganyan. So, yun yung challenge. The challenge of putting out content that people will watch without being toxic. Because
Yeah.
when you're toxic, matik, anday manonood eh. Like if I put out a video, or if I put out a video and I'm talking about how this guy did this, like chismis or gossip or toxic things, matik may manonood. But if you actually
Yeah.
put out positive content, medyo mahirap kasi magka-viewers eh. So, yun yung challenge doon. I feel like now, with so many negativity happening around us, like I don't understand why pati sports gagawin nating negative. Diba? So,
Yeah.
yun yun. Go ahead,
I
Martin.
understand that too. I feel that sometimes sports in the Philippines is oftentimes celebrified.
Mhm.
So if you watch other sports coverages in other countries, you see how they're so
Objective they
focused
are.
on the game. Yeah, they're objective about it. Especially if you try to watch like a Premier League football coverage, it's so tutok sa game, to the players, to the coaching staff, to the signings they made prior to the season. And in the Philippines, it's more like celebrified. I mean, it's not the fault of the sport itself or the athletes. I think that's just what sells right now.
Yeah.
And like Mikey said, as an athlete, you know what it takes to just get that goal, or to just get that simple 3 point, because you train
Yeah.
for that and nobody sees that. And I seen it. I seen the players wake up at 5 a.m., do their meditation, and we're as like broadcast media, we want to try and bridge that gap. We want to show them like there is more to this toxicity or this celebrification. There's the sport itself. There's these stories that you don't see behind the games, and I think that's what we're trying to bridge here.
The funniest thing is sometimes one player, let's say one player does well on the court, and then you make content out of it, or you talk about it, hindi masyado. But that same player, pag nangaliwa, may asawa siya, nangaliwa, tapos nahuli siya,
Yeah.
tapos
Yeah.
ganon, biglang, Mikey, as ang dami mag-message sa akin, Mikey, interview mo si ganyan kasi nahuli siya ng asawa niya. Ganyan. I'm like, that is not, like, and then, the funniest thing is, when you talk about that same player and praise him for something completely like unrelated to what happened outside of the court or in his personal life, parang apologist pa ako nung tao na, uy, ba't yung pinag-uusapan si ganyan? Eh, babaero yan. I'm like,
Yeah.
doon na napansin ko. Yeah, they're definitely celebrities, especially the volleyball community. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yung pagka-
Yeah.
Yeah. As a
Yes.
diehard fan,
volleyball
yes.
I agree.
I think with basketball, football, and volleyball is the most like
Yeah.
Yeah.
celebrity status.
And I want to add on to that, like what Mikey and Marty said about the celebrification of these athletes. Kung pinag-usapan niyo yung, kumbaga, conversations online, and the stans versus the bashers and everything, the antis pala, like as what Gen Z calls it. I want to talk about the behind the scenes, like in reality. So what happened in Ilocos, talagang for me, it was mentally taxing. Like, of course, it was physically taxing for everyone, pero it was mentally taxing given the celebrification of the players and also the hosts. Like, even for me to smile, knowing that I see these athletes injured already before the game. And they're
Oh my
all
God.
they're all walking, and yung iba, like, umiika. If you guys know that, umiika yung mga main stars ng team. And on TV, like in live stream, no one would see it. Diba? Everyone would focus on what Mikey and Marty saying na relationships, issues, conflicts. But no one would actually, like no one would ask kung sino ba doon yung kaya pa talaga maglaro. And we all know that it's not, diba, physically feasible for everyone. And yun nga, lalo nangyari kasi yun dahil sa pandemic, sa lockdown constraints. Ilocos had to have an emergency lockdown kasi tumaas yung Delta. So they had to cut the tournament short. So imbes na we had one-day breaks, naging sunod-sunod. And kahit for me,
Yeah.
na kunyari, if ako, matatakot ako na may sore throat, magkakaroon ako ng ubo, and I don't have a voice, isipin ko na lang, paano pa yung mga cameraman namin ng 10 hours, 11 hours na hawak yung camera? Tapos pag inisip mo,
Yeah.
paano pa yung coaches na namimiss yung family nila? Paano pa yung players na injured na, pero babad sa game 3 sets, aabot pa ng 5 kung gusto nilang lumaban. And parang, when I talked to Cherry Tigo when they won finals, Jaja Santiago, our MVP, told me after the game, she was like, you know what, like I woke up in the morning in the bed and I couldn't move my legs anymore. And parang sabi ko, like, how could you carry the game? And like, if you're a fan just watching on TV, wow, galing naman nila. Like, they're so amazing. They're so inspiring. I think they're kind of tired. Like, diba, you're gonna see people from a different standpoint kasi people see them on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And alam mo,
Yeah.
tayo lang naman ng mga hosts or production crew yung makakakita kung ano ba talaga yung nangyayari. Are they really on a pedestal or are they really sinking deep? Given the expectations of people that they have to perform well all the time. And parang yun yung pinaka-heart-wrenching and heartwarming. Kaya parang people were asking me, like, it was so controversial, people were asking me no finals, like, is Ayat and Zai crying on camera while interviewing the Santiago sisters when they won? And I was like, bro, like, as much as I'd want to be professional, like, I can't help it. Kasi talagang nanginginig sila kasi I knew that they couldn't walk. And parang Jaja told din na ate, ikaw na bahala sa game. Like, magpe-pray na lang ako, ikaw na bahala. And yeah, Din carried the entire finals, no, finals game, 3-2.
Yeah.
Tapos parang
Volleyball.
36 points. Parang, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Tapos parang, and then I mentioned her name kasi parang Din was one of the players na I got close to na parang, kunyari, in mga 9 a.m., tatawag ako, how are you? How's your game? She's gonna say, oh, I miss Chloe, I miss my kid. Kasi ito yung first time na nawalay ako, ganun. And I couldn't see talaga, I couldn't see her. Tapos parang sabi ko, ako din, like, I just graduated, I wasn't even allowed to sleep over, like, in Katipunan with other friends. And now, I'm 1,000 kilometers away, living alone. And then parang sabi ko na, you know what, like, okay naman na it's your job as an athlete to always play better every time, even though you're tired, you're injured, or anything. Pero yung sinasabi niyong celebrification na bakit kailangan ngumiti pagkatapos? Bakit kailangan active sila sa vlog? Bakit kailangan lahat ng picture, lahat ng video greet gawin nila when in fact they are exhausted? And for them to answer every question na nire-require ng fans na malaman. Like, I'm so thankful for fans who ought to take care of their idols. Na minsan, hindi ako nang-aaway sa Twitter, pero may time na trigger ako, sabi ko, bakit niyo ba sila binabash? Hindi niyo ba nakitang wala na silang tulog? Like, wala pang 8 hours yung recovery time nila.
Oh, they don't know. Ang nakikita
don't
lang ng
know.
fans yung court eh.
Yeah.
Like, they only see what happens live.
On the
Or
court.
they only
Yeah. So,
on the
parang
court. They don't see what happens
For,
outside.
parang it's the same nga, parang for me, yung difference noon, what the pandemic did was that, okay, there's a positive side na dahil hindi sila nakalaro, like, in 2 years, you know, diba, football, basketball, volleyball, girls basketball, nung bumalik, wow, like, andun yung init ng palad sa kamay.
Yeah.
Kasi, pero miss na miss sila, sobrang galing, like, andun yung giggle and everything. Pero when it comes to the situation, the technical situation, na hindi, sa sobrang pagod mo, hindi ka pa pwedeng umuwi sa pamilya mo. Given that it's social distancing and you're alone in your room, far away. Like, sa lahat ng mga nag-training sa bubble, sobrang saludo ko. And we all know that, diba? Syempre, Gilas women, diba? PBA, PVL, ABC, like, lahat sila ngayon, like, they're sacrificing, and for me to hear it via phone call, via face-to-face, like even the coaches, miss ko na yung misis ko. Like, it's so hard to just take it all in. And at the end of the day, kahit may na-injure, may nahulog sa court, nakasmile. Ganun, whatever.
Yeah,
So,
parang mga robot na. They're like robots.
Yeah,
Yes.
and parang doon mo ma-realize na like doon ako natakot. Sabi ko, at the end of the day, sana yung prayer ko is that hindi ma-alienate yung athletes from what they love doing. Na parang hindi ma-taint yung passion nila because of the expectations of other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
Thank
true.
Yeah, that is so beautiful how you convey that message and what was really going on inside the league. it made me feel so parang, shucks, you're right. I'm like, that is so true. I wanted to scream. I was like, yes, that's true, that's true. Because being also a volleyball enthusiast, you see these things when you're like backstage, you're seeing them like warm up for the game, what's really going on before they go inside, for example, San Juan Arena in front of all the fans. So like you conveyed that so well. It was so beautiful. Enzo.
Wow. I mean, I really have to agree with that kasi ako mismo, like, as a volleyball fan in myself, like, when I heard the PBLs coming, from wow, okay, here it is. Like, I'm gonna see all the players I've seen before in one league. Yung pa yung clincher, di ba? Kasi it's one league na eh. They're all together. They're all, before you wouldn't see Eliza Valdez against Jaja Santiago, which happened right in front of us. But then again, we didn't know na Jaja couldn't walk anymore and Dylan was shaking and she's missing her daughter kahit na sabihin niya on Twitter all the time. Aware na aware. Nababasa yung tweets. Na kahit nag-tweet siya every night na she misses her daughter, we tend to forget that na tao rin sila. Na they're going through so much more. And especially the bubble. Now that I realize from IE's story, and IE's not the athlete, she was there to cover, but the bubble really has a lot of pros and cons talaga, no? Like, especially for the professional players and the national team players, because they need it, but at the same time, it could damage them in so many other ways that we don't know yet because this setup is new for us, diba?
It's true.
Marty,
Actually,
is there a bubble for football recently?
yeah, I was just about to talk about that. So
Go.
last year in the pandemic, the coverage for football, one of the challenges really for some other sports, because syempre, automatic na yun eh. Pag volleyball, basketball, may automatic coverage na yan. Meron kang partner broadcasting thing. And for other sports like for football, wushu, all those other things, it's difficult to try and partner up. And I think this is also sprouting from what you were talking about celebrification. Syempre, basketball, volleyball, it sells now. For the Philippine Football League, and this is a professional league, they were only able to have coverage online. So it was live streamed. And even worse for the Philippine women's national team, like you were talking about, Enzo, even the national team had to do a bubble, and the women's team was doing a bubble from the Philippines all the way to their camp in California. And come time that they were supposed to stream the coverage, I was talking with TV5 with this. We were supposed to commentate for this game. And the game was held in Uzbekistan. Syempre, wala kaming madala na mga staff and everything and broadcasters all the way to Uzbekistan. We had to borrow the coverage from the streamers coming from Uzbekistan, get the license, and stream it to TV5, where we'll do off-tube commentating. I think Mikey's done this before, off-tube. It was supposed to happen, and one of the challenges was, some things happen when it's in a pandemic. You can't fly your staff all the way to Uzbekistan. Another thing is Uzbekistan didn't allow licenseship or ownership to stream the coverage to the Philippines. So ang sama naman kasi the national team was training in the bubble the whole year. They were training all the way in California. And then in their own Asian women's qualifiers and World Cup qualifiers, hindi man lang makita ng mga tao how well they played. And they won both of those games. And they qualified for the Asian Women's Cup and the World Cup qualifiers. And the sad part about it is that nobody was able to see it. So it's stuff like that. There's may disbalance sa mga sports, and nakikita nyo yan, of course. So those are one of the challenges in the pandemic. But also on another note, social media has been such a big presence for athletes, especially athletes whose sports aren't as famous as basketball and volleyball. I mean, we have players like Agatha Wong coming out. We have the golfers coming out. So social media creates that noise that otherwise broadcast networks can create for them. So one of those things sprouted coming from the pandemic.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, wait. I think we have a question. Wow. May ganun feature? Wow. So we have a question. We have a question from Miss Gabriel Micaela R. Bernales, our founding president of Match UP. Actually, if I can just add, like, our group chat right now in our org is so noisy because sobrang ganda lang ng discussion na nangyari right now na they have so many questions for you guys na they just had to flash this one up right now. So for Miss Marty, how is football coverage different from volleyball? Oh, I know. Yeah.
Nice question. Oh, thank you, Miss President Gabriel. Well, of course. So for volleyball, like what I said, it's such a deep relationship with the fans. So sobrang tutok yung coverage. You have the pre-game interviews. You have the first set, the second set, third set, fourth set reports, and then you also have the post-game interviews. For football, it's a little bit more straightforward. Number one, it's such a totally different sport. 90 minutes yun eh. 90 plus minutes. And bawal ka mag-interview in the middle of halftime because football players don't like that. And the coaches don't like that. We don't also have courtside reporters. Before they tried, TV5 tried it out. I don't know what happened with that, but right now it's all just commentators covering the match. So wala ka din makita na inside intel, yun sinasabi ni Ayi. Like, what are these players doing? What are their routines? What do they like to eat? Wala kang makitang in-deep coverage na ganon. Kasi wala nang courtside reporters to do so. There's not enough resources to have that type of coverage. So right now, football is just such a straightforward broadcast. It's basically just calling out the game, broadcasting the game. And when I commentate football games, I try to incorporate a little bit of that courtside reporter, try to do player profiles, like who is this player? Why is she relevant? Why is he relevant? Where did he come from? Anong country siya? And then I try to just build a story up. Why is this game important? Why do they have to qualify? What is this qualifying round for? So that's how basically the football coverage is. You're trying to just spit everything out all at once as a commentator, because you don't have courtside reporters to do that. That's why courtside reporters are so crucial in the game, because they deliver what you can't see. So yeah, I mean, I hope that there could be a chance for a CSR to do football matches, but we'll see. It's still trying to build it up there.
Thank you. That's actually like one of our goals here in Matchup, wherein we want to give light to the other sports more than just volleyball, specifically like women's volleyball and men's basketball. Because lately it's just been about those two sports that give light, that's been giving light, and like everything's just surrounding that area. So that's what we want to overcome here, and like break barriers and give chance to like all the sports. Yeah, and yes to sports inclusivity
Yes.
and super all sports.
Yes,
Yeah,
totoo
thank you,
yan.
Z.
Yes.
Yes.
Tama energy.
Tama energy.
Yun, so we've been talking about like the professional leagues and like the national team settings of the bubble, the trading sa game. But now we're hearing news kasi, di ba? Parang medyo ambiguous. Medyo ano pa siya. We're not sure about it pa. Na, about the UAAP and the NCAA. So for you guys, how do you think will the bubble be, or how should it be for the UAAP and NCAA? Because you guys have seen how it was for the professional players, and from what I said, it didn't sound like 100% the healthiest, and of course it's because of the circumstances. But yeah, how do you guys think it should be for the collegiate leagues naman?
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Mikey, you're muted.
Boss Mikey.
Sir Mikey. I don't think ako personally, I'm not for it. Number one, if you're gonna have a bubble for basketball and volleyball, how about all the other sports? I don't see a season, a UAAP season na basketball lang. As much as I'm a big basketball guy, na parang of course I'd want to see UAAP and all that. But honestly, it's actually more mentally draining than it is physical.
Yeah.
How can you expect a bunch of... These are kids eh. At the end of the day, these aren't professional athletes na binabayaran ninyo ng ganito kalaki. Kasi, I'm gonna pay you this much. You gotta do your job, which is go to the bubble and play. These are kids na... Like, I can't imagine being in a... Actually, na-invite din ako ng bubble the way I did and the way Marty did it, but I said no. Ano pa lang ako nito, like I'm an analyst, diba? They wanted me to analyze and be there for a month, and I'm like, no, hindi ko kaya. Ako pa lang to, and I'm not even gonna play. So I don't think it's healthy for the kids mentally, especially na for how many months or maybe weeks. I don't think it can be done in a month. So maybe like 2 months, you're not gonna see your family with everything going on outside of the bubble. I don't think it's healthy for them to be in a position na paano kung may mangyari outside of the bubble, like, 'di ba? Hopefully wala naman ako on wood,
Yeah.
but 'di ba? How can you just ka-text mo lang yung parents mo, and then it's just something na feeling ko lang in a span of 2 months, a lot of things can happen na pwedeng magulo yung utak ng mga players.
Yeah.
So, as much as I want sports to come back, I feel like there are a lot more problems in the world that sports
Yes.
can take a back seat muna. Diba? So, ano tayo? Kumbaga, I'm not for it. But at the end of the day, kung may ganun din, ano tayo magagawa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, alam ni Mikey yun eh, because, as a student athlete, mahirap, like, just to wake up to training and after training, go straight to class. Minsan nga, di ako nagsha-shower eh, naka-chinelas lang ako eh. Alam mo yung ganun? Parang, alam mo, athlete siya kasi naka-chinelas and socks lang siya eh. And then, imagine these kids, they're coming into a bubble, which professional players have already done. They're professional, so they get paid for it. Are these kids even going to be compensated for it? Is the question as well. And also, what the pandemic showed us is to take care of our mental health. And even in the Olympics, Simone Biles clearly showed how important it is to be integrated into a sports program. And before trying to think about starting the UAAP again and getting it kicked off, maybe we should try and have a stable sports program for all sports before we head on over in trying to get it all started again. Because, I mean, imagine these are kids. Some of them are freshmen. When I was freshman, I was 15 years old.
16, yes.
16 years old.
Bata.
I was a kid. When I first played UAAP, that was the first time I've ever seen anybody watch a football game like that. There were so many people on the stands, and you want to televise this, and they're kids.
I think what people forget or underestimate is what I've learned since ako na yung pinakamatanda dito, obviously, what I've learned for my whole life is the right balance. So I can't imagine being in a game, win or lose, like good game or bad game, and not be able to escape from that right after. Like you're so focused in the game, and I can't imagine. I've been an import, like a player outside of the country. I've played in Thailand and Singapore, and it felt like, diba? Like lalaro ka, and then after that, you can't really escape from it because you can't see your family. Kumbaga makikita mo teammates mo lang din. So it's like you'll never get away from it. And that is mentally draining, diba? Some people can do it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you have to also be sensitive of other people. Na ako, I can't do that. Ako nga, analyst nga, like I said, I can't do it because I can't not see my bed, not see my, diba? So, not see so, diba? So,
Gosh.
Sana
hindi kaya. Diba? Like,
Nagets na lang namin lahat yun.
hindi ko ma-imagine how parang mabilis ka madidrain. Diba? Mabilis ka madidrain if there's no balance in your life. So I'm sure I was the one who actually experienced a bubble that long.
Yeah.
Nakakabaliw yun. Nakakabaliw.
Yeah. And you know what, adding to that, like what you guys said, parang these people are student athletes. So if you look at the compound where they're students first, and prior to fixing the sports system, it's fixing the educational system in this country. And I'm not trying to be woke or anything, but we're not financially afloat to actually, fix the systems in our online learning. Everyone's having a harder time than what we experienced kami nila Martin, Mikey. We were so lucky na after exam, we can go straight to Katipunan, labas agad, gala. And
Walrus, yung mga ganon.
Yan, diba?
Oh my
Shout out,
God.
diba? Kasi
Those days.
Katipunan tayo. But then, But then, like, students nowadays, like, you wake up in the morning, you turn on your laptop, and that's your source of entertainment, kunyari Netflix or YouTube. And then at the same time, it's also your source of learning. So there's no barrier between your workspace and your rest space and your safe space. And that goes the same dun sa bubble training. Na if ever, paano ka mag-aaral, mag-e-exam, tapos mag-training, tapos pupunta ka sa court, babalik ka. Like what Mikey and Marty said, it's physically not that feasible, especially mentally. And kung makikita ko nga na-experience ko na these athletes, some of them have families already. Some of them have been there in the industry for over a decade. And sila mismo nahihirapan. Paano pa like yung mga 16-year-olds, yung mga 17-year-olds. And not all student athletes prioritize their sport. Kasi syempre, iba academics yung unahin nila. Iba family. Iba meron sila iba't ibang org. Kasi may mga bibo tayong, diba, classmates.
Yes.
So yun. So for me, if ever you actually gonna happen, what I perceive it to be is that, yun nga, sadly to say, baka yung primary sports lang. And like what Mikey said, sobrang for me, na kahit volleyball, courtside reporter ako, pero sports anchor din ako ng general sports. So, masakit sa akin na hindi ko makikita yung football, hindi ko makikita yung tennis, hindi ko makikita yung swimming, yung taekwondo. Lahat naman tayo dito, may sari-sariling sport. Like what you said, good sports. Like, it's a matchup for every sport, for the diversity of sports. And kung ilalabas lang nila basketball and volleyball, technically, it's more on the, I don't know if I can say this, pero financial side, kasi yun yung mabenta. And that's really unfair. That's really unfair for other sports. Kasi,
Yes.
and ito pa yung masakit doon. Kahit primary sport ka, it also depends on the gender. So kung may ilalabas lang sila na women's lang and not men's, that's harder pa. Kasi volleyball ka na nga, hindi ka pa babae. So parang when you come to think of that, and then papupunta din yun yung basketball, na everyone's preaching about PBA, and how about the Gilas women? Diba? So parang, it's hard na parang we just have to swallow it all. Kasi at the end of the day, we're not financially afloat. And all we have to do is to promote it in our own platforms as influencers. But other than that, we'll just pray and hope for the best.
Yeah.
You also mentioned the I don't know if it's called discrimination or like the difference na lang of like gender in sports also, in like women's volleyball is much more popular than men's volleyball, and then like same as with basketball and other sports. Actually, it's like I don't know when it became na like, oh, this is the better like category to
it's
watch, women's volleyball, for example.
Yeah.
So parang, yeah, I really get you on that, no? Parang on the context of all sports, talagang mahirap panoorin na malalaman mo na you won't get to see like, for example, NU defending the men's volleyball crown or like stuff like that. And
Walang pep squad, ganun. Pangit kung ganun.
Oo naman, di ba?
yung tipong punong-puno yung MOA Arena.
Oo.
Walang cheer dance.
The one event na lahat ng schools nagkasama-sama talaga.
Oo, diba?
Oo nga, no, never thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Malabo.
Actually, and I do agree, Ren. It's parang it's not enough a risk for students right now.
Oh, it's not, at saka parang we're not equipped pa with it. Tama naman si IU. Kaya let Lenny lead niya eh.
Yeah.
Para sorry ano pa to? Sorry kung ano. Ako naman nagsabi. The views and opinions of the guest. The views and opinions of the guest does not reflect
It's okay.
the views and opinions of the show. Okay?
You can repeat it again if you want.
Diba? Ganda nga po ni CK, pink na pink. Diba?
Yeah. Well, actually, wow. Like, now thinking of it, like, again, as a sports fan, like, PN and I, like, we do both play volleyball, and we were both former student athletes, Ren, for a time. And, like, parang, if you think of it, like, is it really worth it to be away?
It's not.
Sobrang parang, wait lang. But, well, I guess that's the future na lang. Like, we have to wait what will happen. So, yun nga, with the future naman, we want to ask you guys naman, like, in the field of sports media naman, especially for our viewers, the students watching right now, or students,
So,
or
ano ba yung
whoever's
market
watching.
nito? I'm so sorry. Ano yung market nito, mga students? So,
Well,
majority
pwede
of the
naman.
people watching
Yeah,
are students.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for the students who are watching and who would like to get into sports media,
Yeah.
how diverse is the field? Ba? Like, is everyone an athlete? Is everyone a mass comm
No.
or a comm
No.
major? Ganon.
No.
It's you just need to put your mind into it because kunyari ako, I was an athlete, so it was easy to get to, kumbaga, the analyzing part was easy because basketball, buong buhay ko ginagawa yan eh. But there are two things to it. Your knowledge of the sport and the way you deliver and how you can talk and how you can command attention. Because I've seen so many reporters na kahit tama naman yung sinasabi mo, inaantok ako eh. So, you don't, hindi mo nakukuha yung attention ko. Diba? So, it takes those two talaga. It's entertainment and substance. I really believe those are the two things that you need if you want to be a successful reporter. Entertainment and substance. A content creator.
Energy.
Diba? Kasi, if you're just entertaining, so napatawa mo ako for the 5 minutes na pinanood kita, but when I go to sleep, hindi kita maiisip. Pag substance ka lang, mabobore ako sa'yo, so hindi rin ako makikinig. So, you gotta be entertaining to keep their attention like there and they're listening to you, but at the same time, kailangan may substance ka kasi pag matutulog na ako, dapat natamaan mo ako in a way na naaalala ko yung sinabi mo or something like that. So, entertainment and substance people. Sa mga estudyante ngayon, entertainment and substance. And also, there are two things din na napansin ko, na-realize ko when the pandemic happened. When ABS shut down, I was out of a network. Like, wala akong network. It was tough for me personally to move to a different network just because, I don't know, talagang laking ABS-CBN ako eh. So, there are two things. One is, are you the type na you're part of a show? So, kumbaga, like I said, nung ABS ako, sinusunod ko lang yung sinasabi sa akin. Diba? This is what you can talk about. This is what you can't talk about. When the pandemic happened and I was unemployed, that's when I was like, okay, maybe I want my own show. Maybe I want my own thing. So that's the power of social media. Because if there was no social media, not everyone can make their own show. Not everyone can put up their own brand and be like, diba? Like ngayon, sina Alex Gonzaga, if you look at them, I don't even know anong network na ni Alex Gonzaga. But she's still doing her thing. So yun yung na-realize ko with social media, it's so much easier to really put out content that you enjoy and that you love. And there is always a market for anything. So whether it be base basketball cards yung passion ninyo or weightlifting or singing or whatever, even the most random thing, gaming nga may market na. So I feel like for a student now, I think this is something that I always tell CK because when students have this mentality na bebenta ba tong gagawin ko? If I put out this kind of content, bebenta ba to? Kasi baka wala namang makapansin, baka wala namang interested. At the end of the day, merong interested. So, the only two things is, don't think about the topic or your niche or your identity. Think about how you're going to be entertaining and at the same time, may matututunan ako sa'yo. Once you get those two down, no matter the topic, no matter kung ano man ang pinag-uusapan mo, you're gonna command attention. So, since nalaman kong estudyante yung mga nakikinig, yun yung gusto kong sabihin. Kasi I see a lot of people, and it's something that you can learn. I see a lot of people na sobrang entertaining, pero like, wala naman, hindi mo natatouch yung buhay ko. Hindi mo nababago yung isip ko or whatever. Pero natatawa ako sa'yo. Meron naman, ang ganda ng point mo, pero like, mako-close ko yung window eh. Ayoko na eh. I'll just go somewhere else. So, and with social media, sobrang iksi ng attention span ng tao na yung hello mo pa lang, kailangan nakuha mo na ako. Because if your hello doesn't get me, I'm just gonna move on to the next video, di ba? So, yun yung dalawang thing lang na gusto kong maintindihan ng mga tao. Yan lang naman. Nag-lecture tuloy si Sir Mikey. Nadala ko dun ah. Nadala lang ako ng emosyon.
Thank you, Sir Mikey.
Oo. Sa mga gusto mag-enlist, class code ko ay...
3 units to guys ha. 3 units.
So, ayan. So guys, how is it hard to sustain a career in sports media right now, especially with the pandemic and like not all, di naman parating merong liga. So how do you guys sustain it?
I don't know with them. I mean, Marty and
Well,
I.
tama si Mikey with social media. It's been such a powerful tool, especially in promoting all the sports that we have in the country. The show that we did with Tiebreaker Times and So She Did was only streamed in social media. And from that in itself, we were able to interview Mikey Kawanko Jaworski, Agatha Wong, Miss Heidelin Diaz before she flew out to the Olympics. And there's always a niche. There's always a group of individuals scrolling through social media interested in in getting into the sports media industry. And but don't get me wrong, because sometimes when people think about sports media, dapat laging on cam ka eh. But sports
Yeah.
media it goes beyond that. It goes beyond being on cam. Um, when I first came in as a courtside reporter, they were telling us straight off the bat, hindi pang beauty queen ang magiging reporter ah. Hindi ka dapat kailangan maging beauty queen. And that struck me because it made me realize, okay, here you have to tell a story. And you can do so not just by reporting on camera, you can do so by writing about sports. And that's how you're able to sustain it. That's how you're able to keep making sports interesting. Because if you're going to come into the industry just because you want to be famous or you want to get likes, want to be this certain personality, don't come into the industry at all. Like what Mikey said, you need to be able to find your passion and what your value system is. Why are you coming into sports? Who is this about? Is it just about you, or is it about the players or the coaching staff, or sports in general as a community? Do you want to tell their story? So if your reasons are similar to that, then I'm telling you, you'll go far in sports media. You just have to stay on that ground because when you're coming into sports media, yun din yun, parang na-celebrified din yung sports media. It's not just the
Yeah.
athletes or the sports. It's also like,
Yeah.
wow, if you're a courtside reporter, syempre kasi, Laura Lehman, you have
Yeah.
these idols.
Mhm.
It's totally not like that. If you love sports and you're passionate about it, if you're passionate about telling a story, then sports media is the right place for you. So it goes beyond being on camera. It goes beyond having all these followers or anything like that. It's about being part of community and strengthening it from the core. So yeah.
Tama, energy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
And
and
go.
ay. Go.
Go.
Go na. Sanay kasi ako yung madaldal eh. Sige na, go na. Baka sige na, go na.
In support of what Mikey and Marty said, sports media requires dedication. It requires certain standpoints, but you can't just stand there for the rest of your life. So, kumbaga, kailangan solid yung value system mo, like what Marty said. Kasi, dadalin ka ng ihip ng hangin sa iba't ibang lugar. Now, I didn't expect myself. I started out as a volleyball courtside reporter, and then I did rundown news for SEA Games for like wushu and underwater hockey, and then ngayon I'm doing analysis and interviewing football coaches and PBA coaches. And parang at first sobrang ma-overwhelm ka na wala kang alam, 'di ba? Pero nung kinausap ko yung co-anchor ko sa The Game, yung mainstay host si Paolo. Pao told me na hindi mo ba naiisip na it's not about you having the knowledge, you being an analyst. It's about you actually learning as well from the people you're interviewing. And parang if you gain that perspective na you're learning every single time you're on a new episode, then you're more grounded and connected with the fans and the spectators who are watching that show. Kasi nga tinatanong mo kung ano din yung gusto nilang malaman. So as long as you don't have to be like an athlete, you don't need to have like an athletic background. Pero as long as you're as curious as those who want to be inside the game, those who want to know what's behind the game, you have that curiosity and you're committed to finding out the answers to your questions, then you're gonna go far. Like what Mikey and Marty said, na kung driven ka, Like, kahit ano pa yan, kahit anong sport pa yan, kung interesado ka, and it's not out of your own well-being, pero it's actually really learning the beauty of the sport, the culture of the community, the entire industry itself. And talagang you're gonna be, alam mo yun, brought to different places that you'd never think na ma-reach mo, then I think kayang-kaya mo. Like, parang for me, I serve as an inspiration for those who are non-athletic, for those who barely know how to touch or hold the ball, pero who knows how to hold the brush in their hand and like just pretend that they're, reporting in front of a mirror. Kakayanin nyo eh, as long as andun yung puso nyo. Like from what I experienced, I did PVL back in Phil Oil. So, yung merong audience, pero sobrang iba yung walang energy. Imagine nyo yung parang sa UAP may drums, di ba? And everything. And may mga taong sumisigaw. Pero pagdating sa isang bubble, lalo na sa future, for example, meron pa ding pandemic and everything. Knock on wood. Pero,
Unless let Lenny lead.
unless nakapink ako, so let Lenny lead. Ang tawag dito, if ever sa future ganun pa din, na isolated, walang audience or minimal. Tapos you have to bring out that energy na parang there's 1,000 audiences around you, pero mag-isa ka lang. Hindi naman talaga yung knowledge mo yung titingnan nila. It's really your commitment na parang, yung taong yun parang nasa loob siya ng game. Like that's what our prod members call it. Yung term na we have to make the audience feel like you're in game. That's what Boom, my ultimate mentor, tells me. Na they have to feel like you're in game, not out of the game. Kailangan kahit hindi ko yung naglalaro, feel nila yung intensity through your voice. And hindi mo naman na-fake yun eh. Hindi naman to para artist na, oh my gosh, okay, act excited. Like, you have to sound excited. You have to have that high tone. Like, okay guys, no, like, may kita nila yun with your delivery because you know their story. It's because you grounded yourself in their culture, in their routines, na kahit ikaw mismo, alam mo kung ano yung ginagawa nila from start to finish. So, the moment that they gain that victory, if they win that crucial game, yung delivery ng voice mo, yung delivery ng message mo, it's gonna reflect their experiences as well because you were there as well. Pero if you weren't that invested and you weren't that committed and you were just doing your job, na okay, mag-report ako, they're gonna feel that. And alam mo yun, Gen Z knows that. Yung energy, yung aura, yung vibe, they would know if you're actually in there, like your soul was there. So kung kay Mikey, ano niya terms niya kanina?
Entertainment and
Entertainment
substance.
and substance. Yung sa akin, tama.
Ayun. Thank you,
Tama,
Coach Vic.
energy.
Hoy Vic, buisit ka. Ganun ako katanda sa inyo, Coach Vic. Sa akin, Vic lang yun eh. Ganun kami katanda. But yeah, go guys.
Ano yun? Commitment yung sa akin. Commitment
Yeah,
and
that's true.
dedication.
Yeah.
So,
So, any last...
basically everyone listening right now, or watching right now, obviously into sports. Diba? And don't think that sports media is something na kailangan mo ng network. Yun nga yung sinasabi namin. So if you're passionate about something, open a YouTube channel, man. Open a Facebook page.
Write
Open
a
something.
blog. Tweet it
Diba?
out.
Just please
Yeah.
be positive with your content. As long as it's positive, madali suportahan, diba? If you want views, edi maging toxic ka, but that's not gonna get you anywhere, honestly.
Yeah.
Kung clout lang.
Kung clout lang, yeah. Go ahead, P.
Any last advice for the people who want to get into sports media? It can be like a one-liner or whatever.
It's
Yeah,
tough.
anything else you
It's
wanna
tough to get into a network. I mean, like diretsuhan na to. Like I'm not even gonna give you false hope or, diba? It's possible to get into a network, but it's tough. There are only how many sports networks here in the Philippines? Binawasan pa, diba? So binawasan pa. So right now, it's just TV5 to be honest. So the chances that you make it into the TV5 lineup as a sports whatever analyst, commentator, courtside reporter is super thin. So honestly, I believe in controlling what you can control. You can't control kung ma-discover ka ba like IE, di ba? Fateful Day, biglang pinag-audition lang siya, binigyan na siya ng chance. But that's not gonna happen to everyone. But again, you have to learn to make the most of what we have, which is social media. Like sobrang ABS-CBN would never give me a show because I am too outspoken. I am too, for lack of a better term, masyado akong gago para maging part ng mainstream network, a big network, and they actually give me a show to do whatever I want. They're not gonna do that. So you have to make the most of it, and also you have to evolve. You have to know. Ano yung, like when I started YouTube, it was super like sobrang lakas ng YouTube. Everyone was stuck at home. Everyone was just watching YouTube. So sobrang taas ng views and all that. And then when the pandemic medyo naglighten, medyo nakakalabas na yung tao, you have to be able to evolve. Okay, I went from YouTube, punta ako Spotify, punta ako ng TikTok. Even if TikTok is super Gen Z, hindi ko pa naiintindihan kung ano nangyayari. CK was the one. Hindi, pasukin mo yung TikTok. Ano yan? Benta yan. I'm like, paano benta? I don't understand what this is, di ba? So you have to learn to evolve, especially with the times. Kasi, di ba, hindi porket hindi ka makapasok sa network, which is mahirap nga gawin because there are so many people trying to get into it. Hindi porket hindi ka pwede makapasok. Hindi ka na pwede maging sports media or, di ba, someone people can go to for content na about their favorite sport. So, you just really have to take control of and take advantage of what you have in front of you. And I'm sure Marty, if they weren't in networks, they would do the same because they're too passionate about. Ngayon si Ai sobrang passionate about volleyball yan. Like volleyball na yan. Nananaginip na ng volleyball yan. Si Marty has been playing football for the longest time. So parang sumakto lang, we started in a network, but even if you don't, you could still put out good content.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yun. Sana may natutunan sila kahit
Meron
Grabe.
naman yan for sure.
If you see all the comments, grabe, yung iba sobrang na-touch, yung iba sobrang inspired, grabe.
Yeah.
The
And it
feedback
makes
is
you feel
so
good.
Kaya
It
hindi
makes you
si
feel
Marty tsaka
good.
si Ai.
Push nyo lang yan. Everybody loves a smiling face who has a true heart. Honestly. Like, yung mga cloud chaser na, para makita mo kasi, maamoy mo naman agad eh. Like, wow, ang ganda ng content nila. Like, the first time you see it. Pero makikita mo agad eh, sa consistency ng content nila. So, as long as consistent yung content mo, not in a way na consistent na it's boxed. Na, for example, you're just doing volleyball or you're just doing basketball. Pero, pwede ka mag-iba-iba ng methods of content creation and also different mediums. Pero yung consistency na way nakita nga nila na you're actually interested and driven in that certain sports or in that certain platform that you're using, then people will also have that consistent attachment to them, attachment to you. Kumbaga, makukuha mo sila, malulure mo sila, para panliligaw lang yan, di ba? Na as long as maging consistent ka dun sa media mo and you show that your heart is into it and hindi ka, alam mo yun, na genuine ka and hindi yun you're doing it for something else other than, for the love of sport, then it's gonna work out. Like,
ganyan na ganyan si CK nung niligawan niya ako eh. Ganyan na ganyan.
Ay, may nagsasalita.
May kumukontra doon ah. Ba't hindi ka kasali dito ah?
But yeah, you really need to find the genuinity when it comes to sports media. So you just have to look past the glamour of it. Una ko nasasabihin na, when you're trying to have a career in sports, it's not the most heavy paying and it's also not the most consistent paying, I would say that. Kasi syempre sports per season yan. So I guess similar to what we're talking about with the UAAP, try to find your ground first. Know exactly what you want to do, which sport you want to focus on, what kind of story you want to tell, and find your own kind of style. Because it's not always that you'll find. It's not always necessary that if you're a reporter you need to be Englishano or something like that, or you gotta look pretty or something like that. You have your own style and stick to it, and it'll work for you. It'll work. You'll find your own stepping into it. So that's just my advice for that.
Yeah. Kumbaga just put out, there's this thing about yung mga kabataan ngayon, like, syempre, di ba, I'm with CK all the time, na parang masyado kayong kinakabahan kung it's too late to get into this, it's too late to get into that.
Yeah.
Like, CK was a 21-year-old and I hear her saying this. And I'm 30, turning 31. And I'm like, you have your whole life in front of you. So just start it already. Don't be,
Yeah.
should I start? Bebenta ba to? If this doesn't work out and I waste, you're never gonna waste time. If you're it's either you're gonna learn from it or you're gonna break like alam ba ng Squid Game na magiging Squid Game sila ngayon? Hindi naman nila alam eh. They just did the work. 'Di ba? Yung magandang artista ng Korean, the Koreana, she didn't know that when she was doing Squid Game, she was gonna be like this now. So, might as well just do it, man. Wala namang mawawala. Especially if you love what you're doing. Just don't do it if you're not gonna have fun with it. 'Di ba? And if you don't like,
Sir Mikey, prayer reveal daw.
ha?
Prayer reveal. Magkakaya ba si CK?
Babe, mag-hi ka ba daw? Baka wala akong kakainin mamaya, asar talo siya sa akin.
Kita niligaw.
Hindi, kasi guys,
Lagot.
hindi kasi guys, dito yung office namin eh. Wait, ewan ko nga yung ano, babe. Wait lang, para marinig mo sila. Dito kasi yung office namin eh. So, we basically work together here. Ayan. So she has her own content and then I have mine. So sometimes, I don't know ba't ganun yung mga, I don't know, kaedad mo yung mga nanonood dito, baby.
Mga taga CHK yan, mga ano kaya. CHK! Hindi ako
Man, there's something about kids now na parang masyadong kinakabahan.
Yeah. Parang
Yung bebenta
minsan,
ba?
di ba, parang yung kalaban pa nila yung sarili nila.
Sarili nila.
That's
Sobra.
one thing
One
talaga
on
that's fucking Gen
O sige, ikaw magturo sa mga kabataan kung paano ba yung
Hi guys! So, I just think na, as a Gen Z, oh my gosh. Ano yun? Feeling ko kasi na we're used to getting things our way immediately. Like, kasi di ba parang lumaki kami sa technology, so ang bilis lang na parang, oh, okay, so if we want this, we're gonna get it kagad, ganyan. So maybe that's why kahit ako, naging sobrang anxious when I want to start something, ganyan yung YouTube ko, everything that I'm doing right now, building my brand, I get anxious kasi nga, hindi ako sanay sa uncertainty. So maybe, yun yung natutunan ko kay Mikey actually. Parang everyday nire-real talk niya ako na parang, just do it, you're young pa, ganyan. So yun. Ano ba topic niyo, guys? Okay, parang wala po akong significance.
Thank you, CK, for your
Asan yung best?
surprise guesting.
Kaya nga, isa lang po.
Nawala siya bigla.
Di ba? Ano
Hindi ko napansin pala siya.
Show ba namin to? Nakakahiya. Hoy, ano?
Pero like, ano rin, like, with everything you guys said, it really, I don't know, for me and siguro my org mates and everyone watching from CHK or those who love sports and want to get into sports, and I guess you guys just gave us so much more hope. Or like, at the same time, I guess for us here in Matchup, na, I guess we're doing the right thing. Maybe. Who
Totoo
knows?
to. No.
Diba?
I was, when you guys invited me actually, and then I saw, actually hindi ko nga alam kung ano yung matchup eh. Nakita ko na siya, like a couple of my UP friends were posting it, story, ganyan. So ano yung matchup? I asked CK na, and then when CK told me na P messaged her if I could guest, sabi ko, okay, they're putting up a new platform. And this is good. I mean, it's not gonna start, nagulat nga ako, una ninyo, 100 plus na yung nanonood eh. Diba? And that's a lot for a first episode. Tapos yung mga guest nyo pa, mga wala namang kwenta talaga kami. So, hindi ko alam pa.
Grabe ka.
Grabe, di naman.
Ako lang pala yung walang ano dito, walang ambag dito. But yeah, sobrang galing ng ginagawa ninyo. So, continue to do this.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you guys for being our guests on the very first episode of Kots Vic. Grabe, like, we didn't expect it's gonna be this insightful and everything.
Yeah. We expected it to be insightful, pero grabe yung like the motivation, the inspiration. We saw your
parang
like,
napagod kami in the process.
yeah, you're like your passion with what you're doing, and I think it really inspired some of our viewers because like, it really shows like in the comment section, in the group chats, and how people are reacting. So thank you so much for being so real with us here at Code Sports. And again, thank you so much, Ai, Marty, and Mikey, and also our special guest, CK.
Sure, no problem. Guest anytime.
We really learned a lot today about you and to the relationship between sports and media. We are so grateful.
And
Enzo.
Ayun, so of course, before we end, and like in any student organization naman, we will give you guys a little gift lang from us. So, Coach Vic, andyan pa po ba kayo?
Huwag lang alak to. Pag alak to,
Ayan.
na naman. No?
Wow!
Ayan,
Graduation na nga online.
so, Pia?
So, ayan. Meron tayong
Oh.
Certificate of Appreciation presented to Miss Ai Tensai for taking part in the first episode of Code Sports entitled Sports Media Coverage during this pandemic, given this 8th of October 2021, signed by our very own President Gabriel Bernales and our event head Angela Villamil. So thank you so much, Miss Ai Tensai.
Thank you.
Thank
so much. And of course, we have one for Miss Marty Bautista for taking part as well in the first episode of Code Sports entitled Sports Media Coverage during the Pandemic, given this 8th of October 2021, and of course, again, signed by Miss President Gabriel Bernales and event head Angela Villamil.
Madam. Thanks, guys.
Of
and
course,
congrats.
last and
Siyempre, may kulang
definitely
pa
not
ba?
the least. So, Mr. Mikey Reyes, we're taking part in the first episode of Code Sports entitled Sports Media Coverage during the Pandemic, given this 8th of October 2021. Again, guys, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much.
Papadala
Thank you
niyo ba
so
dito yan? Pwede niyo ba kasabay yung diploma ko? Kunin niyo nga yung diploma ko sa UP, pakipadala din dito. Yung diploma ko, hindi ko pa nakukuha.
Follow up namin.
Ay, by the way, guys, kasi sobrang dami yung viewers, please, don't, if you enjoyed yung sabi namin as guests, please follow us on all our socials. I'm sure I and Marty as well. Please follow us on all our socials. Sa lahat ng ginagawa namin content.
You can plug them, go lang. Yeah.
Go plug na.
Go lang. Mag-plug na kayo, go na.
Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, lahat ng gusto ninyo, follow lang. YouTube.
Ayan, so shoot first.
Diba? Shoot first, follow ninyo. Si Kate De Leon, follow ninyo. Hindi, pero yan. Uy! Ayan, Banyo King. Tama, go.
Go lang.
Pag-plug ka na, mag-plug
yes, go,
1,500 na
Go ahead.
mag-plug ka.
Hi guys, please tune in the game. It's our sports show on Signal TV on One News every weeknight 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Marty,
And
mag-plug
Marty?
ka. Plug ka.
I don't really know what to plug, but if you guys want to work out with me, you're always free to come to any of my classes at the Movement Studio. Right now we do it virtually. It's fun, mostly body weight cardio. So if you guys are interested in doing that, you could just search the website up and then schedule in one of my classes.
Oh, yun na. She wants daw.
Yeah!
Siya yung na-plug. Siya yung na-plug.
Ayan.
Ayan. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you again.
Thank
And
you.
for the
And
students
congrats.
watching, thank you so much. And for the students watching, if you're required to attend this, we have the attendance link down below.
Sabi na nga ba, required
So,
lang
yan.
kayo lahat. Kaya kayo nunod eh. Hindi ako pinagluloko ha. Hindi kayo nakikinig
naman.
talaga.
So yan, just answer the G form and we will inform your professors na you came to this
0.25 ba
amazing
to?
first episode. Ha?
Plus 0.25 sila? O, habaan natin para i-deserve nila yung 0.25. Hindi, tatlong oras na dito.
Wag
Gusto nyo 0.25 pala to eh. Guys, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Again, thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Congrats,
More power
Matcha.
to your show. And
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matcha.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Hi,
Thank you so
Marty.
much,
Thank you
Marty
so
and
much.
Mikey, for joining
Thank
us
you
in the
everyone
very
who
first
watched.
episode of
Thank you so much.
Code Sports. Code Sports is brought to you by Match Up and also
And is in cooperation with
Ruvian and Tennis UP.
and our media partner, syempre si Cots Vic TV. Yes.
And lastly, let Lenny lead. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Thank you everyone watching.
Special thanks to Coach Vic Domingo for being here.
Thank you so much.